Hello, everybody. I'm sitting here with Miss Vibha Ramesh today, and I wanted to do a short interview with her. She said something very profound in class the other day, a story about quitting and stuff like that. And first of all, congratulations on your second degree.
Thank you, sir.
It's such a rare accomplishment for someone to have earned the second degree black belt, especially at a younger age. A lot of people earn their first degree, but most quit right after that because they think for some reason that's the end of the rope, the end of the journey, when it's actually the first step. Shodan means first step. And Miss Ramesh has been here a long time. Vibha, can you tell us like how long you've been training and how you got started? Like what year did you start?
Yeah, so I was a Little Ninja student when I started, so roughly around 6 years old, and it was around 2010. So I was just starting first grade, and it's funny because I've been at the dojo the same amount of time that I've been in school academically, so that's about how long I've been here.
May I ask how old you are?
I'm 16.
16, so she's been here a decade. Like that's a long time.
Yeah.
So much more than most people. What do you think initially got you interested in martial arts? Did your parents want you to do it, or did you see a movie or a book or something?
Yeah, I remember coming in here primarily because my parents initiated the first move, I think. And I know as kids, a lot of us really don't make the decision, so for a lot of us, we do come in because our parents do make us. But I think, I remember Ip Man was one of the first martial arts movies I watched.
Yeah.
And after that, I was probably around the same age as when I started. And after that, I just thought the moves were so cool and the movie was so good. And so I think I really just wanted to be Ip Man for a really long time.
Very nice. I think there's like 4 of those movies.
I think so.
Yeah, he was based off of, I think, Bruce Lee's Instructor. Yeah. And that's Kung Fu, but, you know, martial arts are all in the same tree. It's just a question of which branch do I want to study. So now after you trained in the Little Ninjas and you started to get older and older, again, so many people, younger people, I find, and let me know if you agree with this, I don't know what's causing it, perhaps technology, but I find that a lot of young people, when something gets difficult, rather than pushing through it and enduring like you did, often they'll want to quit right away. They're too hard on themselves. First of all, do you see that happening, or am I just wrong about it, or is it too individual to even talk about it? Is it based on person by person, or do you seem to see something in the younger generation, or any theories on what might be causing that if it's true? What do you think?
Yeah, I think as a large scale in terms of young students, I do see a lot of people quit early. And, you know, when we talk about seeing individuals person by person and talking about individually what made them quit, there can obviously be a lot of different reasons. I mean, people can move, their interests can shift, things like that. But I think as a whole scale, sometimes starting out in something brand new, for a lot of us, I mean, this is our first time doing martial arts, especially when we're kids, because when you're 6 years old, I mean, how many years do you have to experience other martial arts in those 6? So starting something completely new, I think, is challenging for sure, especially with you coming in the roles right off the bat and learning the strikes and learning the terms. I think it can get hard and it can get challenging, and I think that tends to scare people, especially kids. I remember students I've seen that walk through the door on the first day, and we have this big class of kids, and they've been learning for 3 or 4 years, and so they know the terms, they know the techniques, and so when a new kid steps through the door, they're intimidated by all the stuff they have to learn, and so I think that might be a big factor in why people quit early.
Yeah, I would agree that walking in a dojo, even though we're very friendly, it's scary because people are yelling, there's weapons involved, there's dark uniforms, even though we're smiling and having a good time. I think that adults as well as kids get caught up in the fantasy of martial arts and they don't realize how hard it is.
Definitely.
Nothing against other sports, but it's very different than me taking like a class in soccer for a month and then it's stopping. It's a long-term, perhaps lifelong endeavor, as you have known with a full decade of training. You've seen massive highs and lows in your training. You can't not experience that. What advice would you give, let's say, to a beginner who is not beyond white belt, they've been here a while, maybe they've gotten through 2 or 3 belts, but they're starting to hit that first dip. Because as you know, when you start out, the knowledge curve is straight up. There's so much to
Absolutely.
learn. And like you mentioned, that is intimidating. But if someone can get beyond that and embrace all of the knowledge we're giving them, but then what happens is they start to get ignored a little bit, and then they just have to push through, which is usually our level 2.
Yeah.
When you encountered that, or did you, and how many times would you say in your training you've encountered that, and what pushed you through it?
I have definitely encountered learning curves and the dips and the highs and the lows. I mean, with 10 years, a lot can happen. A lot can change. You can change as a person. Your circumstances can change. I remember when we're talking about level 2, you get through level 1, you've learned the basics of the basics, and you've learned the knowledge that we were talking about. You've learned what's so intimidating when you walk through the door. You've gotten past that. Level 2, I think, is about finding something that you enjoy specifically. And that can go for level 2, that can go for level 3, that can go for after you get your Shodan. I think finding something that you love specifically can really help keep you here. Because I had a time in level 2 when I was bored to say, I mean, when you're in that 6 belt range and you've done the techniques over and over and over again, sometimes you can get yourself into a habit and you're like, I've done this before. And we say it so many times that you can never see a technique enough because there's always something else to learn. But when you're 8 or 9 years old, it's a different story. So
yeah, I think muscle memory is important because you know, and it took you a long time as well as me, repetition breeds recognition, meaning the more we repeat something, you get the muscle memory and it will act for you when you're in danger. It's not something, again, like another sport where I can do it 40 times and it's in me. You have to do it hundreds of times. And as you said, each time you go through a cycle and seeing the techniques over again, you would agree the mindset is not, oh, not this again. It's, I get to see this again. What new things can I experience? How can I look at it from a third-person perspective now?
Absolutely. And I think that in addition to seeing the techniques over again and doing them and doing the repetition, I think it's also important to go outside your comfort zone and pick up something new. So work on what you're doing, but find something else that inspires you. Because I think that's where you keep coming back for it. And so I know for a lot of people that can be starting a Kihon, or that can be, for me it was ground fighting. It was getting a partner and starting to run through the 36 flow, because I mean, I love the Kusari and I love the Jo, but as a high school student, it's not as easy to be here picking up the Kihon lessons. So getting an individual system with a partner and going through the ground flow, that was really fun for me, and that's what kept me coming back. And for some people, that's the weapon. So do your repetitions, I think. Obviously, get that muscle memory so that when you go out into the real world, you have things to draw from when you're getting into a fight. But pick something that inspires you and that you're passionate about, because I think that definitely keeps you here more.
I agree, yeah. There's so much that we can choose to specialize in, whether it's ground fighting or 25 different weapons, or might want to practice being a grappler or a striker. Now, what do you say to people that say, because you have naysayers, right? All of us do, and they say, you're too young for a black belt. What do you say to that? First of all, is that possible to be too young for a black belt? And what do you think a black belt is to a person? A lot of questions, I know, but
yes.
I'm interested in your take on that.
Yeah, in terms of the age part of it, I've definitely been looked at differently in terms of being younger.
Yeah.
Because I think that the perception is that the lower you are, or the less years you have, the less experience you are and the less knowledgeable you are. And I don't necessarily think that is always the case, because a black belt is not bought at a young age, it's earned.
Right.
And we all know that. We've done the tests, we've done the repetitions, so we know that we've earned that belt by the time we get there. But I think saying that somebody is not as knowledgeable because of their age, I don't think that's necessarily a valid argument.
Yeah.
There can always be people that are younger but don't know as much. That's fair. But to discount somebody's knowledge and their passion and how much time they've spent, based on age, I don't think is completely valid.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people know enough about history to know that the samurai were often 12, 13, 14 when they were sent to battle.
Right.
And they had enough of the basics so that they might be able to survive and live into their 20s. And again, a lot of people don't realize, they think the black belt, because of the movies, is the end. It's like the top of the mountain. No, it is the top of one mountain. But when you have your black belt, I liken it to a high school diploma.
Right.
And then if you decide to stay after that and you want to go for your bachelor's, your master's, your doctorate, that's up to you, which you're kind of doing right now. Now, depending on the school, it can take 4 years, 5, 6, 7, 8 to get your black belt, but we have a series of rigorous tests which you went through. How, being a person that's a bit smaller because of your age and stuff,
Right.
how do you overcome a larger attacker? Are there specialities that you had to work twice as hard on? Like I notice you're a really good striker, so
True.
rather than just relying on muscle, you'll hit like secret targets and you'll kick 4 or 5 times. I notice you attack the lower base of the body a lot when you have someone that's like 6'3". What secrets do you do that can help you overcome someone that's like 6'4", like my size?
So I think this goes back to that differentiating knowledge based on age, because I think that the more passionate you are at a young age, the more knowledge you'll get. So I think that's where that argument is different, because if you're younger and you get that black belt, you earn it, but you don't necessarily pursue it, then it's a different story than if you're passionate and you keep going and you keep learning. So talking about me and my personal preferences when I'm doing martial arts, it's pretty obvious that I'm a striker, because when I'm doing demos or when I'm showing things, I always add strikes in comparison to some of my friends who grapple and throw. And that's different because that's a personal preference thing. That's knowing your body type and knowing what you're capable of.
Yeah.
And so for me, I'm about 5 foot, and that's probably less than average in the real world. So going up against somebody that's much bigger, I have to hit targets that I can reach, but I also know will take them down faster. So that could be taking their balance, that could be hitting low, that could be sweeping the legs when they're not looking. So those kind of things are learned, I think, and as you progress from Shodan to Nidan and further, I think you start to learn your style and you start to work on your style. And I think that's where that comes in, is knowing that when you're shorter, you might have to do things differently. We see things in class, and I see these throws, and people are like doing ridiculous things over their heads, and I'm not sure if I can necessarily do that. I can always try, because you should always try with anything, but if it's not working for you consistently and you want something, you want to build something that will work in the real world, I think once you're a black belt, we are kind of given that freedom to try new things and try what works for us. So we do a lot of our own free response. And so I think when you get to that level, start experimenting with things that you like, start experiencing with combos you like or strikes you like, patterns that you like. And I think that's how I came up with my striking and how I practice more striking, because it's what works for me. So I think for each person, short or tall, I think just as you're going up in the levels and as you're given more freedom, experiment with what works for you, so you can learn that, because it does take time to learn what works for you.
And that's the beauty of Budo.
Yeah.
When I did Taekwondo and a couple other things, I had to conform to that style. And if you weren't, the perfect height, weight, you'd lose tournaments and things. But this martial art doesn't care about size, nothing. It doesn't care about culture, background, height, weight, gender, nothing.
Right.
Whoever walks in the door can take this knowledge and be better than they were yesterday at it and excel. And that's what kept me going too, because I wasn't the average person. I was taller and heavier than other kids, so I got picked on for that. But martial arts such as Budo was the only one I really found that accepted me for who I was and gave me the tools I needed to be the best I could at whatever age. Now, going from first degree, which was a huge accomplishment, going from first to second, you hit different types of hurdles, right? Because it's longer.
Yeah.
You're not getting any stripes, no accolades. You get stars like you have. Those stars on her gi top are every few months you do a certain demonstration of several techniques you're learning in black belt. and you get a star, and that's how you go toward your next degree. And you can see it takes like 9 or more stars, so 9 times 3, that could be, 27 months or more. What kept you going when you might have been on the edge of quitting before getting your Nidan? Tell us, because I know you shared a very prominent story in your life about, which I didn't know, that at one point you really wanted to quit. What kept you going? I'm so happy you didn't follow that.
I think that it's a misconception that people think that when you get to black belt, you're like solidified. You're here forever.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's true, because, I mean, we discussed earlier, like, things are always changing.
Yeah.
I mean, your mindset's changing, you are changing as a person, school is changing, work is changing. And I think that, I mean, even as a teacher, I think that because I was working here, it didn't seem like I was ever in a rough patch or I was ever struggling with my own personal training, because I was always here for the students, making lesson plans and helping them. So it didn't seem like I was having any issues. But like I said, I mean, I am 16, so I am a current high school student, and with high school comes advanced classes and more homework and long hours studying and practicing, doing the reps just as much as we do them in here. So, and then on top of that, I was working here as well, so the hours in the day just didn't seem enough for me to just stop and breathe and be a person. And that's where I struggled, because first of all, when you get to Shodan, you don't realize how far away your next degree is, and you don't realize how far away you are from not achieving something, but getting a physical object that reminds you of that achievement, like a star.
Yeah.
So, like that, there's distance between that. There's classes you have to do, and techniques you have to learn, and places you have to go and experience things, and the time between each star is quite long in comparison to when we got stripes in our first 3 levels of learning. So it's really easy to fall into a slump there if you're not constantly coming and working towards something. I think that's the most important thing. Like I mentioned earlier, I love learning the ground stuff. I love learning the kusari and the jo, and there were techniques like renyo that I would constantly do over and over and over again. I think everybody knows that I've put renyo in every demo, but when you find a technique like that, or any technique, something that you really like, that's what you have to focus on, and you have to keep improving and coming back for more, because, I mean, renyo isn't it. There are other techniques, and there's more where that came from. So you have to come back and keep learning. So to get those stars and to avoid that slump, you just have to keep coming back, because you know that the reward at the end of the day is worth it. Because when I'd been working for this Nidan for a little over 3 years, so when I felt that belt like on my waist, I felt so much relief, because those 3 years of coming in and feeling doubts about my training and not knowing when the next star was going to come and losing hope because I wasn't putting in enough classes because I was doing school, all of that combined, it was so worth it at the end of the day when I pushed through and finally got that belt. So pushing through it is definitely the most important part.
Now, outside of the dojo, you excel at school, like you're in like the honors program and stuff like that, and she's so humble about this because she's unusual in the fact that she does all of these activities. She gets like straight A's in honor classes. You have unbelievable amounts of homework, I know. Stresses and pressure. How many instruments? I mean, what else do? You play piano. What else? As if that isn't enough.
So I do play 3 instruments. I play
3 instruments. I got you there. I play 12.
That's true.
Okay, I do play a lot, but not at your level, I'm sure. I'm just a hacker. You actually can read the music and play Bach and all that. How do you manage your time? Because again, I don't see, there are some, but very few teenagers are so put together, is a good word, mature, that you can manage your time so efficiently. You know, anyone watching this, if they have kids, I'd be so proud of you or my daughter because you do so many things and you excel, and I would never have to worry about you, you know, protecting yourself out on the street or going off to college. And because you've worked so hard at your young age, you can choose whatever college you want. It's like your future is just set. As a parent out there who might have a kid that they perceive as being lazy and all they want to do is play games or something, What would you say to the parents out there, or even to the youth that might be watching this, that don't feel like they believe in themselves to do this? What would you give them for advice as someone who has excelled so much?
Well, first of all, I really do appreciate that. That was really, really nice to hear. But I wasn't always the most organized or the top of my class. I mean, even now, I mean, I'm not the top of my class. I mean, I do have good grades, and I do get straight A's, and I do these honor societies, and I play these instruments, and I do these clubs, but I'm still not the best. And I don't think that focusing on being the best, I don't think that's always the goal. I think you should be focusing on what is best for you, not what everybody else is doing. And it took me a long time to learn that, because sometimes you don't have the same resources as everybody else. You don't have the same time, you don't have the same commitments, or maybe they don't have commitments that you have to take care of. So you shouldn't always focus on being the best and tearing others down and trying to get to that very top spot. Just focus on doing what is best for you, doing your personal best, because I think that's where everybody excels. That's the place where everybody
Would you
excel.
say that having a long-term goal can actually be detrimental? Meaning, if the goal's too far, I'll think I can't do that and I'll quit. Would you suggest chopping that up into small milestones? Is that how you do it? Like, do you look too far ahead, or do you often look like, here's my today's agenda, this is what I'll do today, maybe into next week or next month a little bit, but we know the future changes. What do you do as far as time management? Is it a day-to-day thing, or do you look way out there to inspire you like a bigger dream?
So with all of the hours I put into extracurriculars in school and the dojo especially, I think that you should be doing both. You should be doing right here, right now, what's important right now, and why are you doing this? You're doing it for the bigger picture. You should always have a goal that's bigger, so that you're working towards something, like we were saying earlier. I mean, that's always the center of why people do things, is we're working towards something. So for me, I mean, I would show you, but my phone is over there. So, but in terms of day-to-day things, I think lists are so great. I remember I could go on for hours about lists, but as a kid, I wouldn't make these lists, and I would say, oh, I know it in my head. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. But as you get older, there's so much to keep track of. There's so much to keep track of, and so.
But it's exciting.
It is. It's always like seeing all those things that you get to do, not that you have to do. You get to do them. That's
your attitude. And I don't know if you learned it here or maybe in multiple places, but success in life, you would agree, is your attitude carries all of it.
Absolutely.
Because how many times have you been bloodied up, broken, knocked down, injured, sick, whatever it is, and you just keep coming back? That's that perseverance, which is what we're trying to teach here. And a lot of people just, if I may be so bold, at your age, a lot of them don't have the hardships. Therefore, when something gets difficult, they run and quit. Whereas you just keep coming right back. Even no matter what challenge we throw at you over the years, what weapon we throw you, how many times you get knocked down, you fall over, you just come back. And that's the key, I believe, to success. And very few people possess that, I think. And again, I don't know if that's learned or something you read about in a book. I don't know the answer. Is it parental guidance? Because you have great parents too, which is a huge part of it. People don't realize that the parents have a big part in the success or failure of their child. Not always, but you're always mentioning how your parents are telling you to keep going. They're giving you inspirational talks, and they're, the fact that they have a piano in the house that you can play.
Yeah.
That's all good stuff. I wanted to ask you a few more things. Right, let's do a quick round. Like, what is your favorite weapon and why in Budo? Or do you not have one?
So if I'm talking about any weapon, I would probably say Kusari Fundo, because it's flexible, and there's so many things you can do with it, and I'm not a long distance type of, like we were saying, you have to learn the skills that you want to mature in the skills that you want to work on. So I'm more of a close distance type of person. I prefer doing techniques that way. So Kusari is one of those weapons that you can strike with, you can catch with, you can throw with. But if we're talking about more of a long distance range, I think Joe staff is
Joe, yeah.
is I mean, for me at my height it's a happy medium between hanbo and bow, so I can still do bow techniques and still apply the principles, but I don't have to necessarily be messing around with a 6-foot staff because I don't know if I've always had the capability to wield that and do the bow fury and hold it like that, because I mean that does take a little bit of strength.
Now, Miss Ramesh also now is a coach. You're a junior instructor, so to speak, and you help, which is awesome to see because she started, way down here at little 4 and 5.
Yeah.
And now you have grown and you are now teaching the next generation, so to speak, of young kids. What is the most gratifying thing about coaching the little ones to you?
Oh, there are so many gratifying things about it. I never saw myself as a teacher when I was a kid.
I did. I saw you, yeah.
Yeah, see, when people tell me things like that, I never understood it because I never saw it, but I forget that people like you, Mr. Norcross, and Mr. Daines, and Mr. Norfleet, Mr. Johnson, Miss Barker, they actually watched me grow up, and I forget that a lot because I always think that you've only seen me as a 16-year-old or 15-year-old, but you've actually seen me since I was like 6 years old. Right. So I never imagined that I would be a coach, but once you get there and you start connecting with the kids and they start telling you what they ate for lunch and what they did at recess, and I think it just gets so personal that you want to stay because you form these connections that are just so irreplaceable. And I think one of the most gratifying things about it is just seeing progress. Yeah. Not them not being able to do a front roll and then suddenly being able to do a front roll. I don't mean like that, but I remember I had students a few weeks ago, and you see kids go from less mature to more mature. And I saw a couple students, we had a few new students walk in, and these older students went up to them and said, "Hi, I'm so-and-so," and they said, "You're doing such a great job, and your hands are up and your knees are bent," like, wow, that's so good. And to see these older students interacting with other students that way and being so kind and
breaking the ice of the fear,
Yeah, and in addition to that, I think as a teacher, hearing kids come up to you and saying, "You're my role model," or saying, "I look up to you," that just puts a smile on your face for the entire week or the entire year because it's so gratifying.
It is. You and I can both come in and had a bad day, something happened at work or at school, and knowing that we helped to mold, I hate the word mold, but inspire would be a better word, or just see the youth growing because of something small that we said or did, always positive. It's worth $1 million. There's no amount of money you could put on that. And to me, as a teacher, what you're seeing, and I hope at some point, whether it's a side job or a hobby, that you continue teaching somehow, whether you teach piano or something in the science field, you want to go into medical, something, you have that gift. The gift being supreme patience, right? Inspiration, and never giving up. I mean, that's the key. And just wanting to help other people, which I think is the most important job as a martial art teacher. We're not there to, we're there to help other people. It's a service industry is what we're doing right now. And you really represent that well. What is something, I don't want to keep you all day, but what is something that you would give to someone out there watching who wants to try? Now, this could be an adult student as well. They're either scared to go to a new school, they do not believe in themselves, although they don't say that. What advice would you give to someone who wants to start martial arts? It doesn't have to be this martial art, any martial art. What would you say to them?
I think the bottom line for even starting anything is that you're capable of anything that you put your willpower into, anything that you dedicate yourself to, anything that you set a goal in, that you're willing to do some hard work for. So you're capable of anything that you set your mind to as long as you put some hard work into it, passion, things like that. And so I think that even if you don't think you believe in yourself, you should still walk through the door, because we say that getting the white belt, although it might not be as hard as getting a Shodan or a Nidan, it is still one of the hardest belts to earn because the fear of coming into something new is such a huge fear for so many people. And you can walk through that door. Like I stress it so much, but once you are here and you are in a studio, you are in a dojo, you'll feel passion and you'll feel the drive to work for something. But it just takes walking through the door to get there. So again, you're capable of anything you set your mind to. So if you set your mind to getting a white belt or getting a black belt, you will walk through the door.
Yeah.
So that's where I see it.
Well, Vibha, this has been inspiring to interview you with an extended edition, so to speak, because, you know, we've interviewed you a little bit, but I was dying to hear after your second degree. I wanted to know, because, you know, often we get so busy with students, we don't have the time to sit and talk and chat, and
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. When I think about all the hundreds of people that could have been where you're sitting right now, if they had just stuck with it. So it's like looking at the plant, right? You have this, look at all the beautiful leaves, right? Everyone, but you're this one, right? Out of all these people, you're the one that stayed and the others disappeared. So thank you for being the falling leaf, because, you know, you're going to be the one that tells the tale. You're going to be the next sensei, the next leader of many. So I thank you for being part of our dojo, and I look forward to more years together. And I don't even have to say it, but you'll have the best success in your life as you get older. And hopefully you'll have fond memories of this place. And I just can't wait to see what the future brings for you. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you soon.